Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Arjun Swaminathan. I am a photographer and a filmmaker. And been, I have known Sathyu for a little over 15 years now. I have worked with him, and it has been some fantastic experiences for the person he is. So what we are going to have today is just a freewheeling chat. It's not a serious question answer moderated session as such. You can never have that with him. So when you started out in Mysore, how was it? I mean, what was Mysore like, and how did you move to Bangalore?
Well, I spent the first 18 years of my life in Mysore, born there, and I was not so good at my studies. I didn't have enough marks to take up the PCM, and there was no PCM in Mysore at that time. I had to take some other combination of studies, and the science college was in Bangalore. I got an admission into what is called CBG, Chemistry, Botany and Geology. So that was my subject. My Kannada teachers were Rajaratnam and Sitaramaya. So all great people. But as far as geology is concerned, I don't think I even attended one practical there. Most of my time I used to spend in Sheshadri Iyer's library in Cubbon Park, studying something or the other, reading a lot. I was greatly interested in architecture and arts. I was a little bit of a painter, I am sure, not trained. But I liked a lot of painters, some of the European painters and some Indian painters too. So that's how I started sketching and copying paintings, I really wanted to take up painting as my subject. So I wanted to go to Bombay to join the JJ School of Arts, or to go to Shantiniketan and learn painting. But somehow my father did not encourage that. So he said, you keep it as a hobby, and you do a more secure kind of job. The parents have only one concern about their children: security. I don't know why. We are all secure. We ourselves can become secure in any field of activity if you put in your hard work. So then I told my father, I said, I want to go to Bombay, and I was greatly interested in cinema and theatre. So I asked my father to give me a small stipend of 50 rupees a month. And I said, I asked him to pay me that much for about six months, by which time I'll find a job somewhere. So I was getting 50 rupees every month, and I lived in Bombay with that money. But I had made a lot of friends who helped me a great deal. Actually, T.S. Satyan, the great photojournalist, one of the very early photojournalists. And he was a friend of my brother, the elder brother, and they were in the Banmayas high school studying. So that's how I knew Satyan, and Satyan came to Bangalore for a job, and he joined Deccan Herald, and he was working as a photographer. So, as usual, you know, a photographer will go to some personality and meet them and take some photographs and then write a small article in the press. So we went to C.V. Raman. So, you know, in his institute, you know, I was like an assistant carrying the whole lot, the stand and this and that and the camera. So we put it up. Then Mr. Raman came and we started interviewing. Somewhere something happened and the camera fell down from Satyan's hand. C.V. Raman lost his temper and shouted at us, and he talked about the prism, what it does in a camera. You know, he gave a full lecture on how prisms are used. We didn't know much of it, but anyway, he was a scientist. You know. Then we said, sir, we will come back, once again. So he said, all right, come back. So we went back and then made another day we interviewed Raman, and it was published. Later on, Satyan published the memoirs of his life, you know. And then he said, I had this famous filmmaker who's become famous today, you know, as my assistant at that time, and he dropped the camera, he said. He put the whole blame on me. ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬೀಳಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟ ಅವನು, irresponsible fellow, you know, ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. So he's written it in the book and it's published. Now I can't do anything about it, I can't. So sometimes some wrong information gets to the people.
So you were saying when you moved to Bombay, friends played a very important role, right, in living in Bombay and growing up and learning the technical aspects of film and theatre. So did you first start out with film or was it first theatre? Where was your first entry into?
No, there were a few theatre groups in Bombay. One was run by Alec Padamsee, and Alkazi started a theatre unit as such. And I worked for both of them. I started designing for them and doing the lights, the makeup and things like that. So I had to concentrate much on the technical aspects of theatre. You know, Habib Tanveer was a friend of mine. We lived in the same house in Bombay, near Opera House. So he used to do some work in some advertising job. I mean, writing scripts for advertisements, you know, 1-minute advertisement in those days. So he said there is one unit in the famous studios who make cartoons. And as you can draw and sketch, would you like to go and learn it? And so I said, certainly. It was my first job. I learnt as an apprentice there. And I learnt how to do the animation. So after 6 months or so, I asked Mr. Gupta, I said, I've been doing this and people are using my work. So why don't you give me some kind of a salary, you know? Then he said, all right, we'll think about it. And the next day he said, we'll pay you 40 rupees a month. It set me, I got disgusted totally. Is this an offer of 40 rupees a month? So I left that job and I went away. I didn't go back to animation at all after that. I mean, this was a great disappointment for me. My work was being used, but it was not worth even, it's worth only 40 rupees a month. These things happen. There are exploiters everywhere. Then I used to work with a number of theatre groups. I did a lot of work for the Gujarati theatre in Bombay, which was very almost professional it used to be. It was run by the Indian National Theatre. And I worked with a director called Praveen Joshi. Praveen Joshi was one of the top actors and directors in Gujarati in those days. And then I did a lot of work for him. I became a known kind of a designer. And I started getting, for each play, I used to get about 3,000 rupees salary. I mean, it's a fee, not a salary. So I was one of the top designers in Bombay at that time.
So how did you, the idea of theatre design, so how did you come about that? How did you start, where did you learn that and how did you start implementing
I
it?
didn't learn anything from it. It's all observation and watching others work. I'm not trained for anything, either filmmaking or for television or for theatre. It's not that everything you learn in a school or an institute or a college. You have to learn from observing, and your sensitivity for a play, for example, if you take a play, this is your sensitivity. It all depends on your sensitivity. What does the play want and what should be projected? What is why is this play written? What is the author trying to say? So it makes an impact. To bring out that impact, you have to create an ambience that is required on stage, So that's what stage design is all about. You see, when Habib and myself, we were in Bombay and we couldn't succeed doing plays. We wanted to do some plays in Hindi and Urdu, and so somebody told us that Delhi is the right place to do it. So why don't you people go there? So we went to Delhi, and we knew one German lady called Elizabeth. She was married to an engineer, Gava, as a Punjabi, and she used to run a small school for children. Both Habib and myself didn't have a place to live in Delhi, so we used to sleep in the classroom, putting the tables together and sleeping on that, sort of. And this went on for some time, and then suddenly there were some cultural scholarship offered by the Ministry of Education, and Habib was selected for theatre. So Habib, what should he do? Then he said he will go to RADA, that is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. So he, with 250 rupees scholarship, then Dr. Zakir Hussain was the Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University at that time, and he said he will give another 250 rupees. So it was the 500 rupees Habib sailed off to London to study. So I was left alone in Delhi. I tried to do something here and there. Then I returned to Bombay, then started working in theatre. And I was doing some play. I was designing and all that. It was an open-air theatre on Pedder Road. And Zul Velani, who was a commentator, a friend of mine, he was directing the play. So some people came to see the play. They were from London because they were seeing plays, Shakespearean plays from various places all over the world. So they came, they saw the play, they asked for the design of the stage. I didn't have a design of the stage, you know. It so happened I improvised the whole thing, and these people liked it so much. Then they asked for the design. I said, we don't have a design. Some photographs were there, and then that was given to them. And Derek Jeffries, who was in the BST in Bombay, and Derek Jeffries used to be a lighting expert. So he had made a small cardboard cutout of the set, and he had placed it on the cake. The green room party, we had that thing. So we ultimately sent that cutout to England, and that is in the Shakespeare Museum today. You know. Then, so somehow the Chetananand, the filmmaker, Devanand's elder brother, he was making a film on one of the disciples of Buddha called Ananda. So he wanted some assistance and all. So he told Zul, hey, you send that boy who had worked in your play, you know. So he, Zul asked me, he said, you go there, go and meet Chetananand, there is some job for you. So I went to Juhu, and in his shack he was living, and then I went and met him, and then I told him I'm so-and-so. So he said, I want you to work as my assistant. I said, assistant? I've never worked as an assistant director. I don't know what the assistant director has to do in a film. So I told him, I said, why don't you just take me as a designer? Because I can design a period film. You know, I can create the kind of atmosphere you might need for the play. So he said, no, I have an art director already employed. So you work as an assistant director. But still, to satisfy myself, I designed all the costumes for the film. The very interesting thing that happened to me was that Chetananand himself was doing the main role of the film, you know, of Ananda. So, I mean, my first experience of a film as an assistant director, I had to call the shots, you know. So I would say, start sound, camera, action, and all that. And they would do it. So, and then I had to even say, cut. So somewhere in one shot I was doing it. I mean, I given the orders, and Chetan was doing the thing, and I said, cut in between. Chetan said, why did you cut the shot? It was in the middle of the thing. I said, I think you should try it once again. You're not doing it properly. This fellow is, chit of a fellow, and then he says, I'm not doing properly. But then he said, he's a theatre man, so he knows something about acting. So then I became an assistant director, and I did a few films with him. Then I got fed up in Bombay. I didn't see much progress. And I mean, about 4 or 5 films I've worked. In fact, what happened? Very interesting thing. So Chetan Anand offered me the salary when I went to see him, He said 250 rupees I'll give you per month. So I was just thinking about it, calculating in my mind how much I spend in Bombay, in a month, So why you are not satisfied with that? I said, no, I'm not satisfied with this. I need a little more. I said, a little more? Okay. How much do you want? I said, 275. So I wanted 25 rupees more because my expenses, I calculated like that. So I got a job, my first job, for 275 rupees a month, and as an assistant director, big label for yourself, and in a feature film, a historical film, and getting a chance to become an assistant director. Later on, so many things happened.
So along this journey of yours, there was IPTA also, which was a part of
Yeah.
it. And how did your political leanings form, and how did you get associated with that?
Well, I've been, right from my school days and college days, I've been a leftist. I've been more with the socialists. And in fact, in Mysore, when I was in the college and there was a movement for responsible government. The Maharajas were ruling in those days. And Jai Chamraj over here was Raj Pramukh or something like that. So we were students, we were protesting. And I've been, right from then, I've been politically a leftist. So when I went to Bombay and then started working in theatre, then I found that IPTA was there, and IPTA was almost in a defunct way, because by the time they used to spend 6 months rehearsing a play and then do 1 or 2 shows, and that's all. But so happened, there was this centenary of Mirza Ghalib. The government of India also, at that time, gave us permission to do the Mushaira, the play. This play was based on a little writing by a judge from Hyderabad. He was a Hyderabad High Court judge. And he had written one thing about this whole incident which took place during the last Mushaira. It was called the Yadgar Mushaira of Delhi. It was called. So we called it Akhri Shama, when we did, we got the permission. We did the same mushaira 100 years after at the same place where Bahadur Shah Zafar had asked her. Those days, they had the mushaira. So that's how I got into IPTA. This production was by IPTA, and to a great extent, my ideology, being a leftist ideology, with IPTA I could gel well, and we were not doing for money or anything, but only as theatre, and for its socio-political impact,
But when we look at today's theatre, is it as relevant as it was then when we talk about movements and people getting involved into these socio-political discourses and just being a part of the movement itself?
Well,
being political, with your art, being political about it.
No, you see, the thing is, it may not be that focused as it used to be. Because there was an all India movement for progressive theatre. But that somehow has died down. It was only groups like some leftist group in Agra or in Patna, and a little bit in Calcutta, and very little in Delhi, and to an extent in Bombay, where this movement has been revived. So today, a lot of groups do come to Bangalore to perform, both at Rangashankara and at the Chaudhaya Memorial. So it is but the Bangalore theatre is not so political.
Has it been such always, or is it now?
The Bangalore theatre was, I think earlier they used to do a little bit of comedies, and adaptations, Kailasam's plays, which were basically a new language pattern was created by Kailasam, and he used to do mostly comedies, except some very serious plays by him on Karna, for example. That was in English that he wrote. And Parvatvani and Kailasam were the two playwrights who wrote plays. And in when the emergency came in, there was a play written by Sarveshwar Dayal Saxena called Bakri. That was the first anti-Indira Gandhi and anti-emergency play written. So I did that play when Sarveshwar was my friend. He used to work in Navbharat Times in Delhi, and then I did that play at that time, and in Delhi first I did that, but we did it in Kannada for Kannada Bharati, another theatre group, and then Samudaya picked up that play, which I directed the play here in Samudaya, and Samudaya was started by Prasanna and a few others. It was a totally Marxist group, leftist, and somehow it suited me also in a way to work with them, and then we did some plays. Recently also I directed a few plays for Samudaya. I've done one called Varasudara on Darashiko, and then I also did Tagore's play for them, the Tasher Desh, Kingdom of Cards, which I directed and designed for them. So Samudaya is, the one group is still active and they are ideologically, different from other groups.
So when we come to your films, Garm Hava, Kaneshwar Rama, Bara, so the Notkondu Bandre, they were also quite politically charged, right? So in terms of wanting to be very political with your work, has been the forefront of how you want to communicate.
Yeah, that has been my disadvantage in life. Being political. Being political, it's not easy. And especially if you are a filmmaker and you're political, it's very difficult to find finance. So today, the technology has, revolution has taken place in technology. Now, and the cost of making a film goes into a few crores, and so that kind of money to raise is not possible if you are doing a political, a lot of problems. They object even before seeing the film, before it's released, they object. I don't know how these people assume, I mean, there are just hearsay it is. So, I mean, now also there is a controversy going on about Mani Ratnam's film and things like that. See, it's not easy to make a political film. You don't get the kind of support you require. Sometimes you do get support from some foreign agency, some French funding or Swedish funding and things like that. Otherwise, it's the Indian funding for such films is no more there.
So how do we keep the audience aware about today's political scenario? How do we get this movement going? Is that a possibility at all?
It's a question of your dedication and passion. You, in spite of all these odds, you don't give up your ideology. You try to bring in that, and then somehow in a little way, perhaps you can do it.
One of my favorite films of yours is Bara. And it was a story that was, I think, half finished or something like that from your Ananthamurthy that you picked up and turned it into a script. And another thing that fascinated me about that film was it did not have background music, right? So what is it about the process of making Bara itself?
You see, after I made a couple of films, I made Garm Hava, and then I made Kaneshwar Rama, and then there was another film, a kind of a spoof called Chitegu Chinte. And then I wanted some other story from myself to base the film. So I went to Ananthamurthy. He was in Mysore at that time, and I asked him if he has any story. He said, I have just collected a lot of material about this in Bidar, in the northmost township, and there he has said that he had some ideas for Bara. Then I took that manuscript of his and I read that, and then my wife and Javed Siddiqui, who went to Bidar and they studied the whole thing. Basically, the problem of famine was there, and then the want of water. There was no water there. And people were struggling to get even a bucket full of water, you know. So we did a lot of kind of research on that, and then added many things to the Anant Murthy's story. And I had talked about this with Shashi Kapoor in those days, and he had accepted to produce the film. And he gave me some 25,000 rupees, which I paid to Anant Murthy in those days. And but then when he came to know that Shashi got scared. He says, this is too highly political, I don't want to continue this. And so he backed out of the film. But he didn't take back his 25. So, and then I had to look for finance from here and there, and then ultimately I did get a finance from National Film Development Corporation. They gave 2.5 lakhs and I made the film. It was very difficult to make Bara than Garm Hava. Garm Hava was a very sentimental story revolving only with the family. But Bara is a totally political film, you know, and it has no other aspects in it. There are no sentimental sequences like that. So it's more political. And then I thought, when I wanted to finish the film, and after editing the films, I went to Madras at the AVM studios, and I said, I want to do re-recording. Then AVM studios, you know, in Madras it is, when you say re-recording, it's mixing of sounds and with the music. Live music will be there while mixing. So I went, they said, no sir, are a musician earlier? I said, no, there is no music in this. You just mix the tracks, you know, just the soundtracks. It might be a drill, it might be something else, you know. And so they were surprised. Says, what kind of a film are you making without any music? And so they were shocked in a way. So I somehow thought there was no need for music. The music is, you see, music is used only to underline a particular sequence. But I said, why? You don't have to underline. It's already quite evident as it is, you know. So we used only the soundtrack, whatever sound we could get on the spot, and we used that. And if you have noticed the film, it's shot like a documentary. The handheld camera with a little shaky, you know. It is never steady. It's always moving a little. And that is the technique I deliberately did. My cameraman put his camera on the shoulder and shot the whole thing.
One final incident is, Bara is, like I said, one of my favorite films. So I called up Sathyu and I said, if you find the Bara script, please give it to me. I want it. So one day, a week or 10 days later, he calls me and he asks me, where are you? I was out of town, unfortunately. I was out on a shoot. And he says, I have brought the Bara script. He had come to Rangashankara. brought the Bara script. I'm like, wow, he really didn't have to do that for a man of that stature, right? So he goes out of his way to help and make people, that going around sharing that knowledge. So what is it about you that makes you do that?
You see, you can't be a Dronacharya where you hoard the learning or your experiences and deprive, say, archery to Ekalavya. You have to share whatever you know, your experiences, your knowledge with others so that it continues. Because you're not going to be there forever. You see, I have worked in films. I'm a filmmaker, and then I also worked in theatre, and then I've worked on television. Cinema, for example, is bigger than life. And television is smaller than life because it comes in a little box. Whereas theatre is something which is one-to-one equation between the audience and the artist. If you want to speak a particular language, you should know the grammar of that language. Then only you can speak well. So if you know the grammar of cinema, the grammar of theatre, and the grammar of television, first you learn that grammar and then you will be able to work in all the three mediums. And that is very important. And whenever anybody works with me, I try to, without their knowing, I'm training them. Because you have to share whatever you know. Knowledge is not to be hoarded. So, you see, we are living in a world where globalization has taken place. You can't withhold anything from another person. Knowledge is freely available through the satellite. You can't stop it anymore. So to accept that. So this is how I look at things. To me, when I'm making a film, anybody points out something wrong that I'm doing or something like that, I immediately think about it, and if he is right, I'll accept it. My driver, in Bara, for example, my driver, Amir Pasha, who has worked with all my films, he's from Mysore, and he said something when I was shooting a sequence in Bara. I said, this man has pointed out the correct thing. So I immediately changed the shot, and I accepted it. It's an ensemble art. Theatre, cinema, television, it's an ensemble art. Everyone is a creator, But you have to give that opportunity for the creator to feel that he is doing something and contributing something. That's how a film takes place, that's how a theatre takes place, that's how television is.